today's topic, which is Carrying Intention, a practice-based view on change leadership. This topic is all about change leadership, as we mentioned, and this pillar is focused on excelling in change management. Building trust amongst all stakeholders and fostering structured teamwork through collaboration and diverse perspectives is crucial for this. So this creates space for others to make a difference. For this discussion, we are joined by Tom Dalderup for this presentation, followed by the reflection of Kevin Osiobe. Just a little bit about our speaker and our reflector. Tom is the founder of Humanissimo and an interim manager specializing in change management, in digital transformation and organizational development. He combines strategic thinking with a human-centered approach and is known for his pragmatic style in complex, stuck situations. So Tom really brings experience that matters, which includes change program management at the Dutch Public Broadcasting Agency, NPO, Rijkswaterstaat and municipalities, including Rotterdam, Delft and Dordrecht. He's a faculty facilitator for digital leadership in governance and in government and IT governance management at Nyenrode Business University. AI innovation in live media production, also at NPO. And here he was the winner of the EBU Innovation Award. Congratulations on that award, Tom. He is also a certified action learning coach through the World Institute of Action Learning. Then also Tom holds an MBA from Business School Netherlands with a focus on action learning. And lastly, Tom is also a podcast host of Peerper on information management and digital transformation. Briefly about our reflector, Kevin. Kevin is a seasoned HR leader with over 18 years of experience in HR strategy, talent management, and organizational development. He currently serves as a manager for human resources at Multisub Energy, with prior senior roles in the oil and gas, manufacturing, and publishing sectors. Kevin specializes in business partnering, change management, performance management, and HR transformation initiatives. And he's also a certified HR business partner, a certified change management professional, and a Prince 2 practitioner. Kevin's work focuses on driving business growth through people performance and strategic HR practices. And with all that said, Tom, over to you.
Well, thank you, Jean, and thank you for having me, and happy to share my thoughts from my own practice. So, during my MBA course, I started my own company and started to be focusing on humans within change. And of course, if you step into practice, it's not as easy as sorted out in theory. And I'll take you through 5 of these tensions during this talk in the next 14 minutes or so. So let's go. I think see things from a different glasses sometimes helps you out in solving stuck problems. So I start with a statement. It's is often not the right way to do things, but I thought, well, let's state this thing and find out which is true or not. Change leadership is about living with tensions instead of solving them. And they only could be carried around instead of being solved. And example of such a tension is, you're organizing the change top down, or is it a bottom up change? It's not one or the other, but might be somewhere in between. So across public organizations, as Jean stated, media and publishing organizations, I notice same patterns happening. Change rarely fails because of people don't care, but it fails because leaders underestimate the tensions, and often they are themselves a part of these tensions. So I used to think good change leadership meant reducing those frictions. And what I've learned is that it often means doing the opposite, staying present when the friction increases. So I take you through 5 of these tensions. And the first one is the same as the example. It's the bottom-up change versus top-down or leadership direction. And in one of this organization, I wanted change to emerge bottom-up. Internally support, there was actually low. So the bottom up was a nice idea, but actually nobody wanted to change. So the resistance was real. So there was the tension. The management said, "Well, we need to change." The laws were changed, and they needed to produce a lot more than before. And the people on the floor said, "Well, give us some more colleagues, and then we resolve the problem." And management said, "No, I want to push in some more technology instead of people." And so that's where the tension became stronger and stronger. I want to skip away from getting this into a messy situation. So I invited the most skeptical professionals and set them up to lead an external study. So not doing it by myself as a project manager, but let them do that. And in this external study, they started listening to actual users. And so the tension between top bottom was altered and the power changed. So from the outside, this looked open, and internally, there was, of course, a boundary because the management said, "Well, we need this change." And the professional said, "Well, we can do this change with some more personnel." And I had to make sure that if I wanted change over the power really to the professionals, that they stood open for some changes and rethink their own professionalism in a certain way. So there was quite some uncomfortable situation, and I had to admit to myself that how to cope with this. So that's where tension number 2 came into the same project. And the professionals, they know very good what they can do and how to do things. They have gathered some habits to do things, and they think, well, this is our professional idea of doing things, and don't mess around with that. Yeah. And the management and me myself as well came up with the idea maybe we could add some automation in this process as well. So we started to sort out within the possibilities of this automation what would the actual clients of the products find of this automated made product. So there, the tension became between the internal expertise, which said, well, this is a substandard product. We can't give that away to actual users. And and actually it was at first, but we made it better. And then finally, the actual users said, this is an okay product. And I prefer this automated product above the hand-labored product of the professionals. So that shifted this whole idea. And the experts said, well, for a part of our jobs, this could be automated now. So this gave us the Innovation Award, which was stated by Gene, this project, which consists of two big tensions which were finally resolved. Stepping to tension number 3, it was another project. This was concerning open publication for governmental organizations. Rijkswaterstaat, who builds all the roads and the bridges and tunnels in the Netherlands. They had the obligation by law to produce and publish a lot of documents openly, so people in the Netherlands can follow what the government is doing. And they were always too late to produce those documents and publish them. So I was hired to set the technical ways to do that and also look into the processes. And we find out that to get something published, it went through a lot of hands and a lot of desks before it was published. And some of the desks were only to give an okay and to move forward. So from the group, they had this idea to skip away a lot of these extra steps in the process. But that gave the tension that the publishers really got this autonomy, but how to cope with the accountability. So all the leaders said, well, we are okay with this new accountability and the autonomy state. So we could go within the boundaries of the law in terms of speedy publishing all those documents. So everybody was happy until the first serious mistake happened. Because then this autonomy is really tested. How to cope with that? And escalation followed. Senior leadership got involved. Wow, who set up this idea? Why this is going wrong? Then the real things are tested. So it's always good to have a good understanding of what you give away towards in terms of autonomy to your employees, and keep making them keep having this responsibility on their shoulders, and let them stay aware of this, because and be sure that sometimes mistakes will happen, and then actually the management is tested also. Can they cope with these mishaps? And if they are getting very angry, they, of course, they may not have thought enough about this at the first place when we decided to go this route. And on the other hand, well, we can learn from this instead of making a big fuss of this. So the real things in terms of autonomy are tested when mishaps are happening, and they will. So be prepared for this. And this is one of the tensions. Tension number 3 to cope with as a change leader. Let's go for tension number 4. This is about trust and quality assurance. The last 2 tensions are within a recently finished project. It was about a book publisher who saw that the book sales even electronics books were declining, and they wanted to step over to sell more e-learnings instead of books. These books were about learning in the healthcare world. So let's say, for instance, as a how to say that, um, well, assistant of the doctor needs to learn a lot of things, and today's generation don't want to read all the books from cover to cover, but they want more sort of action kind of learning. And we provide that, or they provide that, with e-learnings. So you're actively involved with the content of the book, and we made a system with a lot of AI in that to convert books towards e-learnings and interesting e-learnings. So we had this supplier. They were based in India, and they helped us out with building this solution. And I thought, well, I start off with a lot of trust because they demoed some great stuff. And I would think, well, if they follow up this, then things will go all right. But when time goes on and goes on, I realized we couldn't match up with the original planning, and the pressure grew because in the world of education, you've got a year cycle, and if you're not ready before the new learning year, you have to wait for a year to introduce your product. So the tension rose. So eventually I stepped in, and I thought by myself, I felt like a defeat because my first goal to give a lot of trust didn't work out as well as I hoped. Um, and I gave them a bit more structure, some more clear criteria, so, a bit tighter governance, and which felt like a bit of a failure at first. Later, if they took over this new structure and they really lived by it, and they felt all right, and we saw all together that we could keep up with the time pressures, then it shifted in my mind. I realized the structure wasn't the opposite of trust, but it was the scaffolding towards trust. So my key insight on this is it's not only tightening control, and then you can loosen up again if they take over enough to keep on your goals. Last of the attentions before I give you some prescriptions how to cope with this yourself. So you got these ideals in the same project where you want to have this all in time because of the frame where this client is working in, and you see it becoming more tight and more tight, and then you think of, okay, what is really necessary in which time frame? So early in the year, they only need to show it to some teachers, so they would buy it. And only in the summertime, it has to be completely working because after summer, the new school year starts, and then the users really will come in. So getting practical within the time frames gave me the tension releaser in this tension. So this is all about these 5 tensions, and I think if you think for yourself, you might come up with some more tensions within your own projects, and so how to cope with that in general. So at first, I would suggest, well, notice the tension, because often in a sort of tension, you start to run around and do things, but stop for a moment and notice this tension before you start solving this. Because noticing this tension gives you the ability to take a step back and look at it. So if you see what's the other side of the tension, and not only the side you wishes towards, but what is the other side, you can see the advantages of the other side and maybe why other persons are pulling towards another side instead of your side of the tension. And then you can help yourself by clarifying what is my responsibility and what is the responsibility of others. And it gives you the ability to present this to in talks to somebody else who is really responsible for this. Well, then you can see what is the boundaries where I can operate. What can I do myself? And then you can make a choice and make a consciously choice instead of grab for the first opportunity which comes by. Because then you're much more relaxed in presenting this choice within your project meetings, and your relaxed attitude will help you through the rest during the project. And you can rebalance over time. So the line to go is not a straight one, but it's diverting left to right, and finally you come to your destination anyway. That's the idea here. So here's all the tensions in one row. And because of this is MBA-like course, I should give away one model which helped me out, and that is it's a lucky sign of luck with the four-leaf clover model, and it contains on the right side of the content and the process side. And often we see if pressures are rising, management is pushing on the process and on the content part. A lot of pressure will be put on the process, but the real magic will happen on the left side. It's the relation part and the habits which you are about to talk to and about to talk about with your fellow project members. So I want to conclude today with this, and I think that change leadership is really, it's being honest and why you move between those tensions. So sometimes you say for weeks, well, we go this direction, and you have to divert your team sometimes because, and please be honest why, and then your project will succeed. So thank you for your attention. Questions are welcome in a few minutes. So thank you, Kevin, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for this hands-on presentation of change leadership. What really stood out for me in this presentation is the perspective you introduced to defining change leadership. You approached it from the point of view that change leadership is not actually eliminating or removing tensions, because tension naturally exists in the work environment. But rather, it is the effectiveness is in how we hold or manage or balance the various tensions vis-a-vis organizational objectives. That really struck me. When you introduce the perspective that it is not the elimination of the tension, but the holding and managing it. And you shared some practical hands-on insight, which I could relate in my space I operate from the oil and gas space. From the first insight, typical example you talked about was the bottom up change vis-a-vis the top-down leadership direction. I could very much relate to this in my job role as a HR manager when trying to balance the tension between management and union in the development and negotiation of collective bargaining experience, collective bargaining agreements. So I could very much relate to that. The bottom up vis-a-vis the top down. The second insight you also shared in terms of example was the internal expertise versus users. I can also relate to that because I remember a particular time where I was part of the project team that was to implement an ERP model for my organization. I was the one in charge. I was the project manager for the HR model of the ERP. I had to engage the consultant on what I want to achieve, and at the same time, myself and the consultant had to engage the employee on what kind of experience would they be looking forward to have in this new automation system. So the tension there for me was me as the expert and the consultant versus the expectation of the experience expectation of the users. So when you were talking about that, I could begin to relate with that. Then you also drew another example when you talked about autonomy and accountability. The truth of the matter is this: a lot of organizations claim they practice autonomy. It is just being theoretical. In practical terms, when leaders hand over autonomy to employees, any small error, they tend to want to draw back that and begin to micromanage. And you were able to resolve that by involving a critical stakeholder to get a buy-in that you use in driving that process. I could very, very well relate with that tension you were talking about. That is the accountability and autonomy. You also went further to talk about trust and quality assurance. One thing that struck me there was when you talked about the introduction of a structure, not to show that you don't trust the employee to deliver the quality, but rather it's a supportive measure for them to be able to deliver on that project. In other words, you will define that process as governance is not control, but a supportive structure. It was very, very key and enlightening. Then you now talked about the last example. You talk about the ideals versus time pressure. I can relate to that as the vision, or that is the expected versus operational realities. Change leaders must and usually take or make hard decisions based on the operational realities vis-a-vis the ideal or what is expected. I love the way that you were able to balance that argument. And you also recommended for us how we could navigate these tension routes that we find in a business organization. Among the suggestions you gave, you told us that we must notice those tensions. We should not underestimate those tensions because they have consequences if we underestimate them. That we must define those tensions and we must set boundaries within which we will manage those tensions. So by and large, my take from your presentation, Tom, is that in today's dynamic organization, the true measure of change leadership is not how fast we make change to happen or how fast we tend to want to eliminate tension, but on how effectively we intentionally manage and hold the unavoidable tensions that exist in reorganizational change by practical day-to-day leadership action as demonstrated in your experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom and Kevin, for the insightful presentation this morning. I'm going to ask Paul. There does seem to be maybe one or two questions. Paul, would you like to facilitate that for us, please?
Okay, thank you, Jim. We have a couple of questions. So the first question is from Omolara Akonji, which says, change management is a process for effective and efficiency. Sorry, let me start that again. Change management is a process part for effectiveness and efficiency. But how do we deal with accountability that is being undermined by leaders?
Okay.
Did we lose Paul?
So, Paul, we missed you.
Okay. I'll shall I try to answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. So when there's a pressure to make things more productive, for instance, and you skip away accountability setups, then you should discuss with the team a lot to see whether these accountability checkups, the extra checkups, are really extra checkups, or does this sign-off happen without thought? So if things they say, well, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and they don't really look at it, then it's just a waste of time. And if that's really useful to do this double check, for instance, when I go to get my some medicine somewhere, a colleague always checks whether the right the medicines are given to me. So when it's useful, please add it and use it. But when it is unuseful, and it had became a habit for many years, then you should rediscuss it within times when you change other things in the process as well. So you can fix up old, strange habits, but not skip them away if they are really useful.
Okay, thank you for that. You have something to say, Kevin?
I missed the last part of your question. Was it that how do we manage accountability? Was that the question?
Is how do we deal with accountability that is being undermined by the leader of the process, of the restructuring process?
From my experience, one of the ways I do that is by making top management or the leader a sponsor of the project and a stakeholder. Tom shared an experience of how he got a very resistant staff to be part of the research that will justify a particular change management process. That is a key strategy for managing that, ensuring accountability.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. The next question is from Humphrey. It says that, from Alexander. Alexander says, how can I, as a sustainability leader, consciously carry the unavoidable tension between short-term performance and long-term value creation without collapsing into control, avoidance, or compromise that undermines the sustainable impact?
Yeah. So try to answer this one. I think that if you see my scheme, that first you feel that tension by yourself, and I think that you should start to communicate this tension and make it more visible in a way towards both the employees who are experiencing this tension on the floor and the leadership team to see on both sides, where can we find some space which is needed, and what will happen when we go onwards with the same situation. So I think this is giving answer to two questions. Actually, there was a question about communication as well. So I often find myself as a project lead in a sort of mediation role between the project team and the employees who are doing the work and the management team. And so both must be aware of these tensions, and both must feel something about this tension and understand these tensions. And both can be directive in, this solution point, because then we go into, let's say, Trump mode. Mr. Trump mode. I want to skip away from that way of working. Yeah. But in times of crisis, sometimes it's necessary, of course, but in normal times, not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me bring in a hands-on experience I've had with regards to what Tom just said. That in bringing both parties to a compromising point, it's always good to make both parties understand what is in need for me. Make the management understand what is in need for management, and the employees what is in it for them. So that is a very good meeting point to holding and managing the tension.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin and Tom. Our time is first spent. So what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to hand over to Jean now to close the meeting. We still have a couple of about 2 or 3 questions for those who want their question. We might just ask Tom to wait a little bit after, and Kevin after the event, so that we can answer those questions. But Jean can officially close the meeting. Thank you. Over to you, Jean.
Lovely. Thank you, Paul. So again, thank you very much, Tom and Kevin, for this morning's insightful session. Clearly, by the questions and the interaction, it is quite an interesting topic for everyone and relevant. And thank you also to everyone that joined us this morning. If you want to know more about BSN's Impact Center for Great Leadership, or you're interested in a program to further grow your talent or that of your team, or you as an individual, just put it in the chat and we will contact you. Then also please be on the lookout for information about the next session of Good Morning BSN. Next week's episode will be the differences, the topic at least will be the differences between management and leadership. Our speaker there, Johan Pot, and he is a senior management professional at Bosch Airports Division, Netherlands. And this particular discussion will relate to the performance leadership pillar. We look forward to welcoming you there, and enjoy the rest of your week and have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. Goodbye.